In June 2024, a viewer asked a question under one of my videos. He said, "Please share us the suggested dose of pumpkin seed oil." 16 months later, another viewer answered him. She said 400 to 1,000 milligrams a day. 10 days after that, a third viewer replied to her. He wrote, "Could you please translate this into teaspoon or tablespoon?" Nobody ever answered him. 3 people, 2 years, 1 question, and it's the only question that matters because you cannot take 400 milligrams of an oil unless somebody tells you what that looks like in your kitchen. Here's the part nobody explains. The studies on pumpkin seed oil used 4 completely different amounts: 400 milligrams, 2 grams, 10 grams, and a form you cannot convert to a spoon at all. They are not interchangeable, and most of them are not what's on your shelf. So today, what the trials actually found for hair and for urinary symptoms, and both are thinner than the internet suggests. Every studied amount translated into a measuring teaspoon. What the interaction data do and don't say. The symptoms that mean stop watching and get care. And at the end, my honest verdict, which is not a simple yes. I'm Alan Reed. I don't sell supplements, and I never will. I read the studies so you don't have to. And before anything else, I'm not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. It's what the research says. What you do with it is between you and your pharmacist. Let's start with what's actually in the bottle. Pumpkin seed oil is pressed from the seeds of Cucurbita pepo. The one with the reputation is Styrian, an Austrian hulless variety grown there since the 18th century, dark enough to look black in the bottle and deep green against a window. They call it green gold. One distinction worth making because it changes what you're buying. Traditional Styrian oil is made from seeds that are roasted before pressing. Cold-pressed raw pumpkin seed oil is a different product with a different flavor and a different composition. Both get sold as pumpkin seed oil. About 80% of it is unsaturated fat, linoleic acid somewhere between 37 and 60%, oleic acid 25 to 44. It contains phytosterols. In Styrian oil, those are dominated by a family called delta-7 sterols. It contains tocopherols, vitamin E, mostly the gamma form. Remember gamma, it comes back. And the green isn't chlorophyll's famous cousin doing marketing work. It's protochlorophyll pigments in the inner seed coat. That's a good fat with a genuinely interesting composition. Nobody argues about that part. The argument is, what happens when you take it on purpose every day as a supplement? People take it for 4 things: urinary symptoms, hair thinning, menopause, and because someone called it a superfood without giving a reason. Let's do them one at a time, and I'll tell you which ones are carried by a single small study everybody quotes and nobody reads. There is one study, from 2014, and it's a good design, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled. 76 men with mild to moderate male pattern hair loss, 64 finished, 24 weeks, 400 milligrams a day. The result? Hair count in the measured scalp field rose about 40% from baseline. Placebo rose about 10. That sounds enormous. Here are the 4 things that go missing every time it's quoted. 1. What 40% actually is. It's a relative change in a photographed patch of scalp, not 40% more hair on your head. The absolute numbers, 6.2 more hairs per field against 1.8. That difference is real. P equals 0.004. It is also 6 hairs. 2. Thickness didn't move. The trial measured hair diameter too. Between groups, P equals 0.991. That's about as close to nothing happened as a number gets. More hairs, no thicker. 3. The formulation was never disclosed. The paper says 400 milligrams of pumpkin seed oil, then names a commercial product, Octasabal Plus. It never prints the ingredient table. Commercial listings for that product describe several other botanicals and describe the pumpkin component as a powder, which doesn't match oil. So this trial cannot tell us what pumpkin seed oil alone would do. That's not a conspiracy. It's incomplete reporting, and it's the single biggest limitation here. 4. The sponsor. The company that makes the product funded the trial, supplied the capsules, and held the randomization codes. That doesn't make it wrong. It means one small sponsor-funded trial is the whole evidence base. And in the 12 years since, nobody has run a like-for-like replication. So, weak. Not zero. A well-designed trial found something. But 6 hairs per field, no change in thickness, an undisclosed formulation, one sponsor, 12 years, no replication. If somebody sells you this as a hair treatment, that is what they're selling you. The urinary evidence is larger. It's also stranger, and it's where most people get it wrong. If you're over 50 and getting up twice a night, you have a lot of company. Pumpkin seed has been used for this for a very long time. And here the regulators matter, so let's be precise. Germany's Commission E positively monographed pumpkin seed for irritable bladder and for the earlier stages of prostate enlargement. The European Medicines Agency currently classifies pumpkin seed preparations for these symptoms as traditional use, explicitly after serious conditions have been excluded. Traditional use is a real regulatory category, and it is not proof of efficacy. It means long-standing use, acceptable safety, not demonstrated benefit. Version 1 of this script called it an approved treatment. That was wrong, and I am correcting it on the record. Now, the biggest trial. It's called GRANU 2015, 12 months. 1,599 men screened, 1,431 randomized. That's a serious trial. 3 arms, whole pumpkin seed at 10 grams a day, an ethanolic seed extract at 1 gram a day, and placebo. Here's what happened, and you need the order. The trial's primary question was extract versus placebo. It failed. Odds ratio 1.06, p equals 0.65. Nothing. And that matters more than it sounds, because the trial used hierarchical testing. You test your main question first, and if it fails, everything after it is descriptive, not confirmatory. The statistics stop being able to prove anything. So, the whole seed group did drop further on the symptom score, minus 5.4 against minus 4.0 for placebo. But that arm was open label. The men could see they were eating pumpkin seeds. The comparison was no longer confirmatory, and the difference was 1.4 points on a scale where the paper itself cites 3 points as the smallest difference a patient would notice. Read that again. The difference was less than half of what the trial's own authors say a man could feel. I want to be straight with you about something. An earlier version of this script said GRANU showed that whole seeds work and the extract doesn't, and suggested that something useful gets left behind when you press the oil. That was wrong, and it's wrong in an interesting way. GRANU never tested oil at all. There was no oil arm. I was reading a story into a table. That's exactly the thing this channel is supposed to not do, so I'm telling you I did it. 2 smaller studies did use the oil. A 2009 Korean study allocated 62 men across 4 arms. 47 finished, but only 16 in the oil arm and 7 on placebo. Symptoms improved from baseline in the oil group, and the study found no statistically significant difference between the groups on any of its prostate measures. 7 people on placebo cannot answer this question. And a 2021 trial compared 720 milligrams a day of the oil against tamsulosin, a standard prescription, in 73 men over 3 months. Both groups improved. Tamsulosin improved more. Single-blind, no placebo registered after the fact. So the honest summary, the largest trial's primary test failed. The oil studies are very small or lack a placebo. And where the oil went head-to-head with a prescription, the prescription won. 2 more, quickly, because the evidence is thin and I won't pretend otherwise. Overactive bladder. A 12-week study, 10 grams a day, 45 enrolled and 38 analyzed. Scores improved. But it was uncontrolled and open label. No placebo, no randomization, no blinding, so we cannot separate the oil from expectation, from time, or from the ordinary tendency of bad weeks to be followed by better ones. And it used Cucurbita maxima, a different species from the one in your bottle. HDL and menopause. 35 women, 2 grams a day, 12 weeks. Inside the pumpkin seed oil group, HDL rose and diastolic pressure fell. That's the finding everyone repeats. Here's the part they don't. Compared against the wheat germ oil group, none of it was significant. HDL, P equals 0.36. Diastolic pressure, 0.62. Symptoms, 0.14. The study also excluded women on prescription medicines and women with high blood pressure. A change inside one group is not a treatment effect. That's the single most common way a supplement study gets misread, and I misread it myself in the first version of this script. Right, Paul's question. 2 years late. Pumpkin seed oil has a specific gravity between 0.90 and 0.92. A US teaspoon is 4.93 milliliters. Multiply them. One level measuring teaspoon is about 4,500 milligrams. Not a soup spoon, not the one in your drawer, a level measuring teaspoon. So when the hair trial says 400 milligrams a day, that is under a tenth of a teaspoon. That's what it looks like. Most people would assume that was a mistake. Which brings me to a comment on another video. Someone wrote 500 milligrams is about 2 teaspoons. 500 milligrams is about 1/9 of a teaspoon. 2 teaspoons is about 9,000 milligrams. He was off by roughly 18 times. And the mistake is completely understandable, because 2 teaspoons really is close to a real dose from a real study. It's roughly what the Bladder study used. The units just got attached to the wrong number. That's not a failure of his. That's what happens when every video on this subject says take pumpkin seed oil, and none of them say how much. Looking at the studied amounts, CHO, the hair product, 400 milligrams a day, about 1/11 of a teaspoon. Hong, the oil arm, 320 milligrams a day, about 1/14 of a teaspoon. Gossel-Williams pilot, 2,000 milligrams a day, about 0.44 of a teaspoon. Nishimura Bladder study, 10,000 milligrams a day, about 2.2 teaspoons. Granu whole seed at 10 grams a day, not convertible. Granu ethanolic extract at 1 gram a day, not convertible. A common soft gel at 1,000 milligrams, about 0.22 of a teaspoon. Look at those 2 rows in the middle. Not convertible. That's not me dodging. 10 grams of pumpkin seed is not 10 grams of pumpkin seed oil, and an ethanolic extract isn't oil at all. The biggest trial on this list used 2 preparations that cannot be turned into a spoonful of what's in your bottle. Anyone who converts them for you is making it up. And the rest are 31 times apart, in different species, in different designs, for different outcomes. So what does that leave you with? Not a dose from me. I'm not in a position to give you one, and anyone who does off this evidence is guessing. What I can tell you is what the studies and the labels actually did. The trials that used measured milligrams used capsules, because you cannot reliably measure a tenth of a teaspoon of oil in a kitchen, and a soft gel is not designed to be split. The trials that used grams used the oil as a food. Most labels direct their capsules with food. That's a label instruction, not a demonstrated requirement. No trial here established a best time of day. And the timelines: 24 weeks for the hair trial, 12 months for the prostate studies. 12 weeks was the shortest study on this list. Stella wrote that she'd been taking it 6 weeks and was still waiting. Someone asked her 5 months later how it went, and nobody answered that either. She was right and didn't know it. 6 weeks is earlier than the earliest point anyone measured anything. This is the part I'd want if it were my father, so I'm going to be careful with it. Nighttime urination, urgency, a weak stream, those symptoms do not name their own cause. They happen with an enlarged prostate. They also happen with urinary tract infection, with bladder problems, with prostatitis, and with prostate cancer. Even the European traditional use monograph says the same thing in regulatory language. For use after serious conditions have been excluded. So the sequence is, get evaluated first. Then, if you and your clinician want to try something alongside proper care, that's a conversation you're equipped to have, not instead of it. And pumpkin seed has not been shown to shrink the prostate or to replace diagnosis or prescribed treatment. And these are not supplement conversations at all. If you cannot pass water, if there's blood in your urine, if you have urinary symptoms with fever and chills, if there's severe pain in your lower abdomen, those need medical care right away, not next week, not after a 12-week trial of anything. An earlier version of this script said a doctor that week. That was wrong, and it could have hurt someone. Retention is an emergency. Interactions, honestly. Published references do not document a specific pumpkin seed oil interaction with warfarin, with statins, or with common blood pressure drugs. But I want to be precise about what that means. The standard interaction checker doesn't contain pumpkin seed oil as a drug entity at all. So this is not checkable in that tool, which is not the same as checked and clear. The data are sparse. Two specific things I got wrong before. The vitamin E bleeding warning, the one everyone repeats, concerns high-dose alpha tocopherol supplements above about 400 international units. This oil is mainly gamma tocopherol in a food. That warning does not transfer, and I shouldn't have transferred it. And blood pressure. A rat study reported that this oil potentiated 2 blood pressure drugs. That's a preclinical signal in an animal. The human pilot I mentioned didn't show a significant blood pressure effect against its comparator, and it excluded people on prescription medicines entirely. So there is no human evidence of an additive effect. Version 1 of this script implied there was. Pregnancy and breastfeeding. The European monograph does not recommend these preparations. Food is food. Supplement amounts are a different question, and the data aren't there. Allergy. Pumpkin and its relatives can cause oral allergy and cross-reactions. Tingling means stop. Swelling or any difficulty breathing means urgent care. If you take prescriptions, show the exact bottle and your medication list to your pharmacist before adding anything. I'd like to tell you that review is quick and free, but access and cost vary by pharmacy and by country, so I won't promise you something I can't. If you're going ahead, here's what's actually knowable from a label. Blends. Pumpkin seed oil on the front and sunflower oil, pumpkin seed oil on the back, is a real thing. The back is the ingredient list. The front is the marketing. Milligrams. The trials that used measured amounts could do so because they knew the number. A product that puts pumpkin seed oil inside a 9-ingredient proprietary blend without a figure isn't giving you a number to work with. Certification. USP, NSF, and Informed Choice are real programs, but the words aren't proof. A product is certified or it isn't, and you can look it up in the certifier's own directory. Facility certification is not the same as product content certification. Storage. Follow the exact bottle because it genuinely differs. One culinary brand says refrigerate after opening. One soft gel brand says do not refrigerate. There's no universal rule to give you. Heat. You'll read that this oil has a smoke point of 250 degrees Fahrenheit. One producer's product says that. A peer-reviewed measurement of cold-pressed pumpkin seed oil found 184 degrees Celsius, about 363 degrees Fahrenheit. Smoke point depends on the product and the processing. Traditional Styrian oil is used as a finishing oil, and your bottle's own guidance beats any number I could give you. Price. On the day I recorded this, one culinary bottle, 250 milliliters, was $24.39. Soft gels at 1,000 milligrams ran about $16 for 90 to 100. That's a snapshot in one market on one date, and it is not a quality signal. So, pumpkin seed oil every day. It's situational, and after going through all of it properly, that's a more honest answer than I expected to give.
It is food with a plausible but limited supplement evidence base. That sentence is doing real work. The oil is a good fat. The claims are another matter. For hair, one small sponsor-funded trial, 6 hairs per field, no change in thickness, an undisclosed formulation, no like-for-like replication in 12 years. It's inexpensive, and the trial reported few adverse effects, though it was small and doesn't establish long-term safety for every product or every medication combination. Go in expecting very little, and you won't be lied to. For urinary symptoms, seed, extract, and oil are 3 different things and cannot be pooled casually. The largest trial's primary test failed. The oil trials are tiny or unblinded. Against a prescription, the prescription did better. Traditional use status is real and is not efficacy. It has not been shown to shrink the prostate or to replace diagnosis or prescribed treatment. And if you're here because someone called it a superfood, there's no specific reason for it to be in your cabinet. It's an excellent salad oil with centuries of regional history. A useful effect doesn't have to be dramatic, and a good ingredient is allowed to just be a good ingredient. The teaspoon conversion is the most useful thing in this video, and I want to be clear about what it's for. It shows you how different these studies were from each other. It is not a dose. There's one thing I've left hanging, and it's the real question underneath all of this. Every study we looked at used a different preparation: whole seeds, an ethanolic extract, oil from one species, oil from another, a commercial capsule nobody fully disclosed, and they're all sold to you under the same 3 words.
A viewer asked me this exact thing under the old video. He wrote, "Are seeds only any good?" That's the right question, and I don't think anyone has answered it honestly. So that's the next video: pumpkin seeds versus pumpkin seed oil. What each one has actually been tested for, what the evidence does and doesn't transfer between them, and why pumpkin seed oil on a label tells you less than you'd think. It's on screen. Go and watch it. And Angiolo, 2 years late. This one's for you.